guests, and they're about to just unpack some of the issues that came out of day one of the ANC's 54th conference. And of course, they'll be looking forward to what else we can look forward to and what will be taking place today. Let's go over there. Thank you very much, and a good morning once again to our viewers. Let's continue now our discussion with my two guests, the political analyst, Professor Sipho Siepe as well, and Melanie Forwood. Thanks very much for staying with us. Prof, today we start off with the adoption of the credentials. It's expected again to be quite a busy day. This is the hurdle that they have to get over. I know a lot of the delegates are here. They want to vote. This is what they're here for. They want to vote, but they have to get through this before we get to nominations and voting. Yeah,
I think the issue of litigation and the threat of it is something that is ever present. So if you want to make sure that you don't go that route, because if there's litigation and it becomes successful, it makes the whole process null and void. And you do not want to have that process. You want to move on. I mean, the president has given his last speech, so it will create a vacuum. He's not going to be standing again and speak as a leader of the ANC. So it's very important that that matter is resolved. And I think members of the ANC understand the gravity of if they were to get it wrong. So, and I think both sides, because of a number of political interests and other interests, would make sure that in the end there's an adoption of something that they can work with. But the bigger the organization, and especially an organization that's the ruling party, you should expect this. The fact that it is done without any form of violence is something that is good. And I do think that ultimately they would. But you are right that right now the preoccupation of members of the ANC, and not only members of the ANC, but the rest of South Africa and the world, is to say who is going to be the next president of the ANC, because that person is likely to be the next president of the country.
Melanie, early on we saw those profiles. We're watching the profiles of the two frontrunners in this conference and this election. Of course, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma as well as the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa. Let's first start with what we saw on Dr. Dlamini-Zuma. She certainly has a rich history in the ANC. She's worked her way up, and when they speak about having credentials and a leader of the ANC, she certainly fits.
Very, very experienced. We know she's been in various portfolios, health first, then it was foreign affairs, then home affairs, then of course the AU, amongst other things. Very highly qualified, highly educated. And I think we need to say she's a very good technocrat, where there's been some criticism everywhere, but nothing, dramatic. There's been no collapse anywhere or total implosion of any of the departments or ministries that she's ever been in. I think the more questionable or the issue for me around her presidency would be she's not a very charismatic leader, in the sense that she, and I think this is what she's struggling with her campaign as well. The famous thing where people say, when last did you see her smile? She doesn't have that natural charisma that Cyril Ramaphosa has. And it's hard to see that she will kind of be able to consolidate and build the dream again and motivate people to fight for that.
Okay. Melanie, I'll ask you to hold that thought. I'm not alone. I'm with my colleague in Takwana, and she is standing by with the president of the ANC Youth League, Colin Maine.
Indeed, we are outside in the gardens of NASREC, and we're waiting as the delegates come in to get a sense of what has happened up to now. Is the president of the Youth League of the ANC, and that is Colin Maine. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, what has happened up to now? Why the delays?
No, thanks for having us. As you know, we started a bit late yesterday because the the registration was not finalized. So we started around 3 o'clock yesterday. with the president opening with his political report. Then after that, we received messages of support from our fraternal organizations from outside the country. And then we are delayed because the credentials are not finalized. And as the program stands, we can't do anything without adopting credentials. I'm briefed by the Secretary General of the Youth League that they had to make sure that they cleanse credentials. You'd recall that verifications of branches this time around was done after PGCs. So there may be branches who have attended PGCs across the country who, at a time when verification is done now, they may not be able to participate. So such branches had to be we had to make sure that we cleanse them out, and what we present to Congress are the true reflection of who is supposed to participate.
I'm talking to Colin Maine. He's the president of the Youth League. He has just arrived here at NASREC. But we're just going to go to a short ad break, and we'll be back in a moment.
The ANC's 54th National Conference is here. The branches have spoken. From the 7 candidates, 2 are leading. Who will emerge victorious? SABC News will bring you the National Conference coverage live from NASREC Daily on TV, radio and digital platforms from 16 December.
We take an in-depth look of all your stories of the day across the world.
Last month, Mkhwebane said that the bank had failed in its duties to protect the public by not ensuring that ABSA repaid an apartheid-era bailout given to the failed bank, Bank-Corp. The rand fell nearly 2% on her remarks.
My effort, in my opinion, is going to be to build a Zimbabwe that I believe in, as opposed to remaking a Zimbabwe of the past that I cannot do anyway. So I'm absolutely clear on this.